Hello, today I will be covering my city generation script. The script consists of a UI element that the user can use to create a scalable city. The user can alter the parameters in the UI to get the desired city that they would like. So I will now explain what each element does on the UI. So firstly, we have the city scale. This slider allows the user to increase or decrease the size of the city along the X and Z axis. So it will scale it up in a square manner. So at the scale of 2, you'll get a 2 by 2 city. At 1, you'll get a 1 square city. And at 10, you'll get a 10 by 10 square city. So you would have 100 different plots. So yeah, that's what the first slider does. The second slider is for the building density, so that's the number of buildings per plot. So for instance, as you can see here, this example city has generated a 3 by 3 grid of buildings, so therefore the building density is set to 3. If I was to decrease this and set it to 2, there would be 4 buildings. To 4, there would obviously be 16 buildings. So it's fairly straightforward. It works in the same way the city scale does, and all the buildings are generated evenly spaced apart. This is iteration 5, but there's a previous iteration of this script where the buildings generate on random locations within the plot. This caused some overlapping, so it didn't look as clean. The previous script was functional. This iteration of the script works on a cleaner layout, making sure that the buildings are evenly spaced apart. At the building density of 4, you get the perfect density of buildings. However, if you go any higher than that, the buildings start to overlap again. This is an issue with the script and the approach I took to creating buildings and how they generate on each plot. Unfortunately, I've been unable to work out a solution for this as of yet. However, in the future, I'm likely to tackle this using a different method. The next parameter is the max building height. This slider sets the height at which the buildings will generate to. This doesn't mean that all the buildings will be the same height. It's just the maximum height of any building at any given point. You can increase and decrease this variable. The last slider on the UI controls the number of skyscrapers in the city. So this can simply be increased and decreased again, and that just decides how many skyscrapers there will be. All the parameters currently max out at the value of 10. This is just to make sure that the script doesn't overload any computers. This could definitely be altered in the future if you're running a higher spec machine, and then you could crank this up and generate huge cities. But as of yet, I've been unable to do that without crashing. Therefore, in the future, I feel like I would focus heavily on making sure that the code is as efficient as possible and it's loading efficiently and there's no duplications. I have tackled this issue previously by altering the way files are read. Instead of reading in every single asset every time, the script creates instances of a single asset. You'll see these assets down here. These are the primary assets that are referenced to create the city. This just saves on memory and speeds up the whole process. The next two elements of the UI include light toggle and the C-plane toggle. These simply toggle lights for the city. These two buttons allow the user to toggle on and off lights and a blue C-plane around the city. This is the light toggle. This allows the user to toggle on lights or toggle lights off before the city is generated. If the user decides to have lighting in the city environment, they can simply toggle on the button and then generate the city. The lights will generate in a random direction, so this will give some variation in the lighting of the city. For instance, the light will rotate a certain degree on the x-axis. If the degree of rotation is above 180 degrees, then the street lights will be toggled and you will be given a nighttime scene rather than a daytime scene. So if the degree of rotation is less than 180, the street lights won't come on and you'll just get a daylight environment for the city. The seaplane is generated just slightly below the city to give the appearance that there is an ocean or a lake, just something else to add to the city. This might be useful for when creating a city similar to Manhattan or New York, where there is water around the city. So when it comes to generating the city, the user can input the parameters and then they are able to generate a city by pressing the top button here, the create city using parameters button. The user also has the option to generate a random city. This will just randomize the parameters, these 4 parameters here. They will still be able to toggle on and off the seaplane or the lights before pressing this button. If the user wants to delete all objects, they can simply just press the delete button and the close window button closes the window. As you can see, the script also has progress bars to show the user the script is actually running. So just while the city is generating, the user can have some visual feedback on that. So for example, if I generate one now, you will see the progress bars will increase as we go along. Obviously, as you can see, it's stopping at 96. This doesn't always happen, but obviously it shouldn't happen. This is something I'm still needing to look into, but as of yet, I've been able to work out why that issue occurs. Anyway, so moving on. So this is the city that's just been generated. As you can see, the progress bars are quite useful to give the user an indication of how long the generation process will take. Here you go, so you can toggle on and off lights in Maya. As you can see, the street lights are on, just giving it a bit of a nighttime feel. When the script is run, the cars will automatically generate on the road next to each plot. The position of the car is random along the road, just giving some variation to the city and making it a bit more organic. Here we have the previous iteration of the script. This is iteration 3 of the script. As you can see, the UI is slightly different. So this script uses the random offset to place the buildings, so it's not as clean. As you can see, the buildings are slightly more random on each plot. You'll also see that they overlap. I could get away with this, and I originally intended to leave this as it was. It doesn't look too bad. I kind of like the randomness. It kind of gives it a bit more of a city kind of feel, I think, but at the same time the overlapping buildings aren't really ideal, so that's why I attempted to make it a bit more organized. So this is just to show you the difference between the two iterations. Other than that, they work exactly the same.